Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. This is one of our Twilight Talks, Empowering Women in Sustainable Construction. Today we've got Ellora Coupe, who's director at her retrofit space. And we've also got Leah Robson, who is the director at Your Energy, Your Way. They're both doing really innovative projects, and Ellora has set up an innovative platform for professional women and homeowners in the retrofit space, and I'm sure she'll be telling you much more about that shortly. Leah, she's been installing low carbon technologies for quite a few years now, and she's now set up an in-house training scheme for women and other underrepresented groups to be able to install low carbon technologies. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you wouldn't mind just keeping your mics off until a bit later, that'd be great. Do keep your videos on though, because it's really nice for the speakers to be able to see you. We will be sending out the recording of this and also the slides from the presenters as well. We'll probably pick up any interesting questions in the chat and send those out too. This is how we run the session. So Ellora will be first, Leah afterwards, and then we'll be picking up questions and answers for the last remaining minutes in the session. It's only a 1 hour session, so we won't have a break. So if you do have questions or comments, we love to see them. So do pop those into the chat and we'll pick those up towards the end of the session. So I'm going to stop talking now and wish you an enjoyable session and hand over to Ellora. Thank you, Ellora.
Thank you, Charlotte. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's well. If you just bear with me, I'm just going to share my presentation, make sure it's nice and clear for everyone. Just checking everyone can see that before I go ahead. Brilliant, thanks, Charlotte. So as Charlotte kindly introduced me, my name is Ellora Coupe. I am the director of the her retrofit space, and I'm really delighted to do a Twilight Talk today for the Green Register, and obviously on a subject that me and Leah are extremely passionate about, which is empowering professional women in sustainable construction. I also want to emphasize that we focus specifically on retrofit. Obviously, sustainable construction can take into account new builds, the scope, and other areas, but that's the focus of work that I am personally involved in. So I wanted to start today by giving you a 20-minute overview of where we're seeing sustainability in the construction industry, but specifically professional women. I'm just making sure my screen. So we have an understanding at the moment, obviously, that the construction industry workforce consists of around 14 to 15% of women. Sadly, actually, we're seeing reports in the last year that those numbers are actually dropping. There's all sorts of reasons for that, but obviously we do have a little bit of a crisis on our hands to ensure that we mitigate those issues. In terms of sustainability, construction and retrofit specifically, the current estimated percentage of women in the professional industry actually ranges only between 18 to 20%. There is no hard data on that, and that's simply based on the elements that female professionals are considerably more attracted to sustainability fields. So one of the issues we know specifically around retrofit is that we have an enormous task ahead in new construction related roles, specifically for retrofit. We also have a big issue around retaining the existing workforce and a further 230 jobs needed just simply within the retrofit related supply chains. So one of the things we have focused on in the last year with regards to understanding the challenges and opportunities for professional women has been to really have that direct conversation. So at the beginning of the year, we started a survey, really understanding what the needs, challenges and barriers were for existing professional women within the retrofit industry. It was a survey that was open for around 4 months. We gathered around just under 100 responses from professional women across all regions of the UK. And I wanted to run through a little bit of it today. The full report's available as well. So I just want to ensure that you get a really good snapshot. The survey results looked at and managed to capture women across all aspects of the construction industry. Within that, there were architects, surveyors, retrofit coordinators, tradespeople, consultants, policymakers, including training providers, and also a small number of apprentices and trainees. The age group we captured was really between the 34 and 55 age bracket. And as you can see, we got a good scope across those age groups. We also asked how long those women had been working within the retrofit industry. It was really important to understand as well a correlation in those numbers. So we further could see that actually within the age groups, in terms of how long have they worked within the retrofit industry, around 25 to 34 women tended to have been in the retrofit industry for the least amount of time. Women aged 35 to 44 showed, and 45 to 54 showed a wider distribution of career length, with a noticeable number obviously having 10 years plus. We find women aged 55 and over have a considerable career length or are relatively new to the industry. We also managed to capture a really good regional cover of those women, something that was really important to us. We ordered it according to the most commonly covered region, and obviously London is significant, but we did manage to ensure that all regions weren't left untouched in terms of our reach. Now, one of the key questions we really asked about was, what do you enjoy about working within the retrofit industry? And one thing that's always very prevalent in the work we do is the climate impact is significantly important for women who want to really see tangible results in the work they're doing. Collaboration, teamwork, working in an industry that includes them across all disciplines and professions is obviously something that's really important. And obviously I can see that there's a lot of women today on this. I do hope there's a lot of men as well on this call, because I don't want to feel like I'm talking or preaching to those who already know the information. Technical problem solving is interesting construction. Women are really interested in being involved in the innovative creative solutions and structures towards latest technology, keeping up to date with materials, technology, and sustainability practices. And obviously we do cover women who run their own businesses as well. So professional development is not just about training up people, it's also about enjoying building a company that can train young people for a career. Mentoring across leadership projects and teams is really important for women. Because we're specifically focused in the homeowner retrofit and domestic side of things, we also found that a lot of women in the construction industry want to see the impact the work they do has right down to the homeowner. So they love the aspects of meeting people in the home and listening to their stories. But one thing that's always something that's driven is we find women in construction really enjoy the technical and the social side to the work. They enjoy seeing the impact it has on people hands-on. What do you dislike about working within the retrofit industry? And again, we pulled out these 5 key themes. And these obviously are in areas that a lot of women will find familiar. Struggles with work-life balance is extremely difficult. An example of a woman dealing with the responsibilities of having a child under 10, plus health challenges. Uncertain, insecure career paths is a focus. The other thing that women want to be involved in is ensuring that the approach to sustainability and retrofit is innovative and creative. There are findings that there's little inflexibility with regards to understanding better solutions. There are issues around retrofit as a word, sounds a bit technocratic, but women want to be involved in a more holistic, more innovative approach to sustainability and construction. We also talked about, and we had coverage on barriers to funding. A lot of women run businesses that require certain access to funding, whether that be apprenticeship schemes or innovative projects or tools that they're working on. We obviously know we're dealing with an extremely male-dominated industry. Prejudice around credibility is very typical and historically hasn't changed in terms of women's opinions mattering. Feeling that they can deal with male builders and contractors is vital. Working environment that may often not be inclusive or supportive does require extra support. We also covered what are your personal professional goals working in the retrofit industry. Training, networking, and impact, again, are the really key 3 areas we see women really focused on. Career development is something that we've personally talked to all the training providers about, in terms of understanding if there's a clear pathway to careers. If I do training in certain areas, is there clarity in terms of what my next goal was, my next opportunities would be? There are some women who find it difficult to access training. Often it's not funded. Understanding as well whether there are even times to do the training, as well as maintaining their job, is often a challenge. Networking, collaboration. We had a lot of women talking about how important it is for them to be in an organization that's collaborative. Impact, again, is something we've mentioned, but one of the things we find that's extremely important for women in the construction industry is having an impact on as many people's lives as possible. They see the holistic, bigger picture, creating a healthier environment for their children and families in the future. We also talked to women about what specific hurdles have you encountered. This is a small snapshot, I will emphasize, of a lot of conversation, a lot of content. But what we wanted to pull out was the significant repeat habits that women find in terms of the impression of them within the workplace. Women asked to make the tea in a forum where they were the most experienced professional in the room. Gender barriers is an issue because often women, we find, tend to do considerably more training and more professional development in the hope of proving themselves amongst their male counterparts. They do feel often, we do know that there's a lot of challenges with women in leadership, often the perception of how they're seen versus a man who can be seen as decisive. And then we can't affect the key subject of motherhood. For some women, being a mother and challenging the day-to-day schedule of things is extremely challenging. We found specifically with retrofit coordinators and contractors who were looking at full-time work or part-time work, it's very difficult for them to secure even freelance or project-based work. And there's very rarely any part-time employment roles, which can be really difficult as a primary carer for children. What specific hurdles continues? So STEM roles, career progression. A lot of women talk about enjoying the side of construction, the technical side of construction. But there was an interesting perception for some women that they felt they had a lack of maths knowledge. One interesting thing that we found post this survey is that actually most of these women didn't actually lack maths knowledge. What they lacked was support on specific software training, something that could be dealt with much more easily. The maths knowledge, there's a perception that maths is a subject that's really inaccessible for women. But we do know that it's the way it's taught, it's the way it's approached. It's about ensuring that training and technical training is delivered in a way that suits everyone better. One woman felt, although my background is technical, I've ended up in a community role, which is an opportunity I value, but she feels it might have been passed on to her because it was connected to her gender. Technology obviously is often seen as male dominant, and the social stuff can be seen as fluffy. But I think one thing we're finding with the sustainable construction industry is there's a holistic approach that's needed in all aspects, whether it's managing projects, dealing with homeowners, negotiating and managing teams as a whole. So what has been our specific findings since her retrofit space launched, which is a platform for professional women interested in the retrofit industry? We feel that it has to be much more about programs that don't just tick the box. It's very easy for the construction industry to believe they are supporting women because they're investing in a program or often a token gesture. One discussion that we have constantly is programs actually need to work and create and introduce women to a viable career in the construction industry. I recently spoke, and I've added this, to women in property who have a fantastic outreach program that has been integrated into the annual curriculum of some of the schools. The program worked because it took a long-term approach. It wasn't just an add-on workshop or add-on module. It was a long-term project over the course of a term, which resulted in a construction project actually run by industry professionals, but by the children. They ended up presenting it in an industry event, which we thought was fantastic. And as a result, the program 71% students said they would take part in again, and 50% of the students said they would consider a career in the built environment. But what went really far was the school saw the benefit, and they decided to make it more than just a token module and actually build that into their curriculum. So every year, certain ages knew that was coming. The children knew that was a project they could repeat if they wanted to. We know there's a need for career path-led training programs as well that provide better pathways post-training to secure work. We have several conversations with women across all sectors. Architecture, surveying specifically also have their own challenges with regards to introducing sustainability or the conversation of retrofit at very early stage. We have a number of women architects who in their level 2 and level 3 stages of work. And one thing they still find that gets them down is the lack of sustainability and retrofit conversation during their studies. Something that we've been told isn't legislated though, so isn't something that's inherently threaded yet through their studies. So it's really important for us to ensure that the women in this industry and the emerging professionals can see representation in this industry, not just as women, but women interested in sustainability in the construction industry. Unconscious bias and stereotypes, to be honest, is an entire presentation itself. We are doing a lot of research that really shows social dynamics within businesses are much more subtle, much harder to shift. And we have to have more inclusive policies and company training, not just equitable parental leave and obviously policies, but we need to have diversity training. Marginalized groups as a whole, we know, are less supported in the workplace, but this training and these inclusive policies have to be understood by everybody in the business, irrelevant of gender. So one of the things I wanted to end just specifically in giving you an overview of the industry is one thing we believe is that sustainability focused and meaningful work in construction has a strong appeal for women as it aligns their passion for building a better future. And it also gives them the promise that the business they're in is also driving innovation and positive change. And I'd like to leave you with that little thought piece before I hand you over to Leah. And my pleasure is to introduce you to Leah, who is the director of Your Energy, Your Way. And Leah and I know each other very well. I'm a huge advocate of the work she does. And I think it's really exciting to be able to talk to her directly about more of the specific challenges she faces in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellora. That was great. Really great to see that research that you've done. And also thanks for doing my job for me by introducing Leah. That's brilliant too. Leah, would you like to come in and share your slides just so we can check those are working?
Just gonna go to share. All right, has that worked okay? Can everyone see those?
That's great. We can see that. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay, I'll carry on from there. Yeah, it's really nice to end on a positive note, isn't it? Because sometimes we listen to this and oh goodness. But I think that's so true. These are really fantastic jobs. They might be hard, they might be challenging. We might sometimes be working in environments that aren't easy, but you know, there are some really fantastic jobs out there for everyone, regardless of gender, ethnicity, whatever. And you know, let's keep our heads up and let's keep looking for these ways that we can all support one another. And I'm really grateful for what Ellora's doing and to have a platform where women can come together is so very important. So I run Your Energy Your Way. It's a installation company. We install heat pumps, solar panels, EV chargers, home batteries, the whole kind of renewables piece. We work probably mainly on retrofit projects, some just standalone heat pump installations, solar installations, and some new builds, but most of our work is on retrofit. Right, hold on. I'm just gonna page down. It's not working. Wait a minute. There we go. Perfectly. So particularly in our sector, similar kind of position to the one that Ellora kind of explained in plumbing. We've got, just really, really small numbers of women in the workforce. The same with electricians. And what we've also got is a very kind of an age biased sector. We've got lots and lots of people who are towards the upper end of the age group that might be retiring relatively soon. And of course, that's not a brilliant position to be in if you're trying to get people to take on new technologies, new ways of doing things. It's much more tempting to just see your time out installing gas boilers if you're kind of 55 plus and thinking about taking things a little step backwards. So we really do need to crack this problem of getting more diversity into the industry. And this isn't just about women, it's also about people from different ethnic backgrounds. If we're excluding kind of great portions of society, then we're not going to make up for the fact that we've got this aging industry as it stands. And obviously, as Ellora says, to make that link between CO2 and practical jobs where you can really see that you're making a difference. You're not just writing reports or thinking about it or worrying about it. You're actually taking gas boilers off the wall and replacing them with clean heat pumps or installing solar panels. So I've been in the sector for about 10 years now, and this is kind of a little list of the things that I came up with after 5 years that I thought were the barriers to getting more women into the sector. So first of all, just that you don't see so many women doing these jobs. I was on building sites and in people's homes for 5 years, and I met interior designers, I met architects, I met cleaners who were female, but I didn't once actually ever meet a female plumber or electrician. Also, it's really, really difficult for women to actually get first-hand experience of this work, to get work experience, to get an apprenticeship. It's such a trade full of small and micro businesses. So pretty much you're asking a guy in a white van who's driving around if you can come and drive around with him for the day. Not always an easy sell. And unfortunately, we have quite a high attrition rate in the industry as well, largely for all the obvious reasons. It's just so difficult to create that supportive environment once people are actually in the role. And also experience has shown me, and I think most of you probably will have seen this as well, that a lot of the women who do get into these jobs kind of find their way into them through all sorts of weird and wonderful routes. It's very rarely a kind of very straightforward, did GCSEs, went and got an apprenticeship, carried on, became a plumber, became an electrician. There's very often a backstory that happens a little bit later in life, perhaps in the 20s, in the 30s, in the 40s. It's just much more rare to see teenage girls decide that this is the industry for them, and totally salute those ones who do, but it is less common. So I think this the financial piece obviously plays a big part because actually, sorry, I need to update that slide. I think it's gone up from £6.40 now, but the apprenticeship wage is well below what you would be getting as a living wage 21 plus year old. So you have got to have some kind of ability to live on that wage, which either means the bank of mum and dad or the bank of a partner. So that's another restricting factor. These jobs shouldn't just be open to women who have that kind of support. So these were kind of the barriers that I'd really identified. So actually what we've done in Your Energy Your Way is we have decided that we were in a pretty good position to try and do something about it in a very small way. So it's, I suppose you could call it a little pilot scheme. We are actually set up as a not-for-profit social enterprise. We haven't managed to find, if anyone knows of any, I'd be pleased to hear. Haven't managed to find any grants to help us with this, but we are a trading business, doing our installations, and we have to bring in enough money to pay for this. But we did do some crowdfunding that kind of got us going to be able to take on a group of women. And so we are now a firm of 12. We have 8 women working for us, and 4 of whom are female apprentices. So in an industry where it's generally about 2% women, we're at about 60%. And what we found is it's been fascinating, really, because when I started the company 6 years ago, I sort of looked to employ more women. And all the women that I met who were plumbers, for example, were already really well employed. They actually weren't all that interested in working for me. They had work, they had plenty, they had a good little area kind of around themselves where they were working. And I was trying to encourage them to learn a new technology and travel further than they had done before, because of heat pumps, we have to generally travel a little bit further. So I thought, well, actually, the need here isn't to take women who have already trained and train them up. It's to be able to take on these trainees. So hence I started to build the business employing men. But what we did is we were very clear when we hired that these were our future plans. So as we hired, we said, these are our goals as a social enterprise. If you're going to come and work for us, you need to demonstrate that these are aims. Taking on women as trainees are aims that you're really kind of fully supportive of. So so that was kind of how the guys came into the firm. And so for a few years we had women in the office and guys out on site. And a few people did say to me, Leah, you're always harping on about having women out on the tools and you don't have any. I'm like, well, just wait, just hold on, because we needed to build a secure enough business that we could take people on. And it's been just fascinating to see how the culture of the organization has developed, and it really has kind of what's the word, reinforced my idea that it's really, really hard to take women on solely. To take on a group has made such a fantastic difference, because straight away it shifted the balance. And just the whole kind of just things that the guys say, oh, well, these aren't the kind of jokes that we make in this company, as and just experience that they have as well, because obviously they're all out on site quite often with some fairly unreconstructed building companies, shall we say. And it's just brilliant to see the way that the guys in our team know that there is a different standard that we work to, and a different way that they treat the female trainees. It really is encouraging to see. And yeah, so it's really sort of thus far seems to have worked. I think financially it's been a challenge. Obviously taking on a group and being able to pay them a decent wage has been a stretch. So I think my sort of takeaway from, we're now sort of 2 years into this process, is that we really, really do need to rethink the way that we train apprentices, because not only for women, but also for anyone kind of getting into this industry, there are so few apprenticeships. There's so little kind of motivation for these small and micro businesses to take on any kind of apprentice, be they male or female. We really do need to push government and push grant making bodies and whoever we can influence, really, to change the way that training in our industry works, because a lot of the money focuses towards colleges and so little of the money goes towards businesses. Obviously, if you're a much bigger business, your British Gas and your Octopus and whatever, they've got more scope to do this. But yeah, so much of the industry is small and micro businesses, and yeah, I think that's kind of what we've tried to do. That's kind of how it's going, and yeah, there's definitely some challenges out there that really need quite a radical rethink of the way we do training and the way we grow apprentices and the way we incentivize small and medium-sized businesses to take them on. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough. That's me.
Thank you very much, Leah. Fantastic. Now, we haven't yet got any questions in the chat, but would anyone either like to tap them out, or you can just put your hand up and ask a question. If you have anything you'd like clarifying, want to raise a comment, have your own experience to share, maybe anything you like.
Hi, can you hear me okay? It's Mike Fitzgerald. It's a really interesting subject that's been debated for a very long time. This obviously, my background is an architectural practice, small architectural practice based in Southwark. We've got 5 employees, 3 are female, 2 are married, both of them have got children, and the main, well, there are several problems actually. One is that speaking as an architect, the wages are really very low, and if you want to work in London for a design practice, it's very difficult to work from home and not live in London, and the rents are really, really high. So you end up with either you're renting a room to pursue your career, or you get married and you want to sort of have children but pursue your career at the same time. But so many times you see women having to make that choice between either pursuing the career in architecture or having children, because the salaries are low, childcare costs are absolutely massive, and quite often, you find, I mean, it's my experience, is that they're married to a husband who's saying to them, well, we're sort of the cost of the childcare is almost as much as your salary. What's the point in you going to work? And that's the sort of compromise that seems to be going on. And I think the way to unlock this really is for the politicians to decide that childcare should be covered by the state after 6 months, so that women have the ability to pursue their careers, their chosen careers. And it's very difficult to see how this is unlocked unless we can get to that point, because it's the low salaries and the cost of childcare and the cost of accommodation that really kills women's careers in the business. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yes. Thank you for that. I mean, you touch on the really, really big problems, which are obviously not just pertaining to women in sustainable construction, but women across all fields of work. And we only have to look at models across the pond, often in Europe, to see how childcare is better managed. I have family, for example, in Austria, and the flexibility to go back to work, the support that businesses are given in order to employ women, to also take time off work part-time, flexible hours, is inherently really valuable. Obviously, construction industry is often tricky as well, because work can be on the field or in person rather than at home. So we do understand, obviously, post-COVID, that the ability to do more home working has been significantly important for women in terms of their focus being on doing a job rather than focused on where that job necessarily is. It's a huge dinosaur problem, I think, and I see women creatively trying to manage those things all the time, but significantly more importantly, actually, sadly, deciding on what stage in their career are they willing to make the sacrifices to have children. In all honesty, I don't have the answer, but we do really need to have those thought of from a central government point of view, in order to attract women. However, we do know, though, when we look at the percentage of women in the construction industry as well, based on the topic of today's chat, we do know other industries don't have such a minority of women in the field. And other industries are able to overcome the percentage of, or minority percentage of women in the industry. So hopefully, yeah, this is something to be tackled with head on with our change of government. We do have some worker right policies that's just been announced that haven't been ironed out yet, but I think everyone's hoping over the next few months to see what they are with regards to, but that really addresses, I think, the more part-time workers, as well as not necessarily the same conversation we just had. Leah, do you have anything to add? It's a big subject, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with all these things, we've all just got to chip away at the little bit that we have influence over to an extent, don't we? But I do feel that shared parental leave would make a big difference, because we need to turn that tide of expectation that childcare responsibilities are a female problem. But yeah, I mean, these are obviously all big and weighty things. I think we have to figure out the chunks that we can all bite off, and you know, and just doing something like encouraging and giving female team opportunity to join a group like Ellora's, or encouraging and making that available, just enabling people to support one another is a really good place to start.
There was an interesting conversation had this week, or last week, should I say, which was, there's actually the term working mothers. And actually there's a slight flaw in the term working mothers, in that we don't have the same term for working fathers in the office. And should the term working fathers be used as often as working mothers? Are we subconsciously highlighting, as Leah said, that the parental role falls with the woman? Maybe they said we need to start calling working fathers and identifying them across the workforce as well, and sharing the kind of.
I think what to get to that point, we have to achieve equality of pay, and we're nowhere near that at the moment. Well,
Yes,
I've had some great female architects through the office who absolutely love being project architects and doing site work and all that sort of stuff, but they end up, if they want to have children, having to make that difficult decision, which is so incredibly unfair. It shouldn't be that they have to do that.
No, I agree.
And I think the
Thank you for
politicians
bringing it up.
are a big part of the equation in solving that problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for your thoughts. There's a few comments coming through chat that are sort of echoing some of the things that have been mentioned, things like flexibility in hours for women who are either mothers or maybe going through menopause. There's all sorts of situations where actually maybe traditional type hours and work structures might not work for women, and we've got the ability to change that. Suzanne, you've had your hand up for a really long time. Let's go to you.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this talk, and I feel like if you don't stop me, there's a lot to talk about. I kind of grew up on building sites because my grandparents were master builders, and my dad was also in the industry. And it was just working with him was just like the normal thing to do. We just did projects, and there was no discussion about skirts or trousers. And then I think like I got my architecture master's diploma thing in Germany, and the apprenticeships we do, we have to do, we don't go in the office, we have to do them in the trades. And I think that's such a like a small step. And when I came here, it was like I was missing in my like in my CV, but I thought that was so good actually to be out there and to learn how to sold and to I don't know, to calculate renewable energy sources, and to know that I need to make space in the building for these to be installed, things like that. So I could get really it's something I'm really passionate about, thinking, my God, why can't we have like the apprenticeship thing, I think needs to change. Like for tradespeople, it needs to be easier for women. And then to build more bridges and to be more in the other's shoes, at least for a couple of weeks, to see how we can better work together. And then I have colleagues in Hamburg, they have 30-hour offices for years. They've had them. And they also worked remote for like decades. They had that before it became a thing. And they still had good clients. They just, I don't know, they just made it like matter of factly, that's how we work. And I think I really love what you do, Leah. I really applaud your efforts, because I think that's the way to do it. We can't wait for the government to. And also, when I had my son, I waited such a long time to have everything in place to have him. I wouldn't have wanted to give him away after 6 months. It's just, no, I don't think that's the either or. There has to be a both and. And I know that the company I worked for at the time, they wanted me in the office, so they let me go, and I started a different company at the same time, because you don't want to just sit at home and watch your baby grow. So I don't know. I wish there was more, or like, it's like, what I wonder, what can I do to actually make my own small contributions? And I always keep lists of female tradespeople where I think, where can I bring them on to the team? And I looked at Hetty's story with Stopcock women, what are they called? I forgot.
Yeah, stopcocks, plumbers.
Stopcocks, yeah.
Yeah, plumbers. Yeah, I just read an article on German television and or German news. They still have the discussions, but on the other hand, I think it's a different level already, where they're still having the discussions. And coming here, bringing the practice here, I thought, well, we just moved to the UK because we had to, and I set up practice. No, years later, I'm still struggling, and it makes me really mad. So I think as women, I don't know, maybe we need to network more and play with each other. And
I mean, that was really the survey I ran through at the beginning, was identifying the needs for women. But also what we found, it was about identifying the support needed to retain women in the industry. Sadly, we're finding, exactly as you are, Suzanne, it's really disheartening. There was a lot more disheartening situations going on, and it only takes one or two bad experiences or barriers to really make women turn around and say, this isn't actually worth the effort anymore either. And the reason we built the platform was specifically to ensure it was a dynamic space for conversation on a daily basis. A lot of women are having very lonely experiences in a job, that often they may be the only woman, or they may be running a business on their own. And the realization that others are going through it, ensuring that they have ongoing support, and also centralizing access to funding and grants and training is a small touch point really on so many of the bigger issues. But I agree with you. I think networking was a really importantly inherent aspect of this, because women are often in spaces together will have a different kind of conversation. It's not necessarily about excluding men in that respect. There's an empathy across the challenges they face together. There's an understanding of what might work for someone might work for someone else. There's an enabling element to being able to support each other, to enable them. So there is still so much to be done, but yeah, really hope that these kind of sessions as well, and webinar sessions, attract as many men as well as women to kind of understand the challenges faced and have that discussion, and ensure there's a little bit more awareness, and a little bit of moments where people think twice about situations. But yeah, I completely feel your situation, Suzanne. And obviously, again, seeing the changes in certain countries compared to how the UK is a big conversation in terms of how things shift.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, I don't know how to put my hand up with this, so I'm just going to ask the question anyway. What interests me is that at the moment we're just talking about the building industry generally, but obviously these discussions are going on between all aspects in the workplace, the legal profession, engineering, aerospace, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it would be interesting if that could get more joined up. I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, but it just seems to me that there are a lot of those conversations being had by the same conversations, and you could do it together.
It's
and that would be
true.
more powerful.
Yes, I mean, we have to give you an example. Some of the members work in the legal industry, but specifically in construction, for example. There are some fantastic businesses out there, for example, Female Founders, which Leah and I are both members of, is an incredible organization that transpires the challenges that women have across all industries. But it is such a big problem that inherently we still need to have those pockets within the construction industry alone to tackle the problems. I would say there's a lot of specific challenges that the construction industry face single-handedly with regards to women, that we can share knowledge across legal, but then again, we have to be careful it just doesn't become a problem for just women to handle. This is actually a problem for the construction industry specifically to tackle. And that's why engagements and programs need to happen at that level. The Women in Property, for example, outreach was a great example of doing a built environment project within the education system, specifically around attracting women within the construction industry. It's actually the industry that has the largest challenge of any with regards to the percentage of women as well moving into this workforce. We also can say that we have actually the largest challenge in our hands in respects to growing the workforce as well with regards to retrofit and the decarbonisation of the UK housing stock that overarches almost any industry. The retrofit industry is almost a problem in itself at the moment with the amount of challenges it faces. So our focus is specifically on how to enable that workforce in order to deal with an extremely big problem, which is decarbonisation of the UK housing stock. And if we don't immediately act on the fact that it's a very difficult industry for professional women, we're excluding 50% of the potential workforce from entering and solving that problem as a whole. But I do appreciate it's across every industry. You will find Gemma Livermore dealing with women in fintech. Her business, I know her very well. She is dealing with that in financial technology industries as a whole. There's considerable amount of women working along that. I do speak to women across all sectors because there's a lot of lessons to be shared. But sadly, the challenges within the built environment construction is a dinosaur in itself. So thank you for the comment there.
I totally agree.
Thank you.
It is an absolute dinosaur.
Mike,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to just butt in there. We've had Sinead's had her hand up for quite a long time, so I'm going to
How do I put my hand up, by the way?
If you go to React on your toolbar, there's a sort of heart emoji there. If you just click on that, you should be able to access your hand there. Thank you. Sinead, go ahead. Floor's yours.
Hi. I hope you guys can hear me because I know my internet's terrible.
It's great. It's fine.
Okay, great. So I was one of those young women that did end up just going straight from school into the construction industry. I trained as an electrician when I was 17, and have done various different things, but I'm a carpenter now. But I wanted to ask a question to you guys that have done really well with your careers, it seems, and are further up the chain than me. because I basically, even though that I've worked in the industry for that long, just still feel really plagued with like imposter syndrome and confidence issues. And I'm like, how do other people deal with that?
I don't think anyone does, Sinead.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, the report we did showed that women in the most senior levels suffer from imposter syndrome. It's definitely not exclusive. And I think normalizing it, not that it's ideal to have, is really important. I know some women running multi-million dollar businesses who still suffer from extreme imposter syndrome. It's not easy, but you have to have the right help and support, and the conversations have to be regular. If you feel like you're in an industry at the moment where you haven't got many people to talk to, I'd say find network, reach out, have your little network. I set up the platform predominantly because 2-3 years prior, I'd got immense amount of support from just other women in a similar position running businesses. And that's really what spurred me on to do the same for professional women in this industry, to alleviate that burden in itself, is really key. Leah, do you have any guidance for Sinead?
I'm just wondering, Sinead, are you already in touch with the Women in Trades conference that meet annually? That's
No.
networking. Yeah, look, so somebody already mentioned Stopcocks. They're a franchise scheme for female plumbers, but once a year they run an women in trade. So it's electricians, it's plumbers, it's carpenters. It's anyone who's a woman in the trade is invited. So they do a Manchester one and a London one. So yeah, if you have, just reach out to me, Leah at yourenergyyourway.co.uk if you don't find it. But that's a good place to kind of start that networking thing. It's a really friendly, fun event. They normally have sort of 100 or so people with a great speaker, so that can be really, really helpful. And yeah, just remember that every time you open your mouth, you are having to work an awful lot harder than anyone else to convince people that you know what you're talking about. And people unwittingly, not even maliciously, are making all kinds of assumptions about how little you know. And don't be hard on yourself, because that feels like a real uphill struggle sometimes. I know that feeling. I've gone to site with people who know nothing about a particular project and had the male customer talk exclusively to the person that I went to site with, even though they keep saying, Leah's running the project. You need to speak to Leah. Leah knows about this. And like they've done it 5 or 6 times in the same conversation, and the customer has still gone back to speaking to my male colleague, and it's flipping hard work. But yeah, so don't be hard on yourself, because that's, even if you don't notice it all the time, that's what's happening behind the scenes a lot, and it makes it hard.
Thank you. Yeah, the other thing I just want to say is, and it's kind of connected, but it does feel like there's not as much support for, like, I guess anyone, but particularly women, who have just kind of reached a slightly high, who are further along in their career. I know that there's a drought of apprenticeships anyway, but there are like college courses that you can get to, and I just feel like we're really missing that kind of middle ground. And I guess that is where talking to each other is gonna fill that gap a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. A lot of emphasis on getting women in, but there's no point in getting loads of women in if we don't keep them, is there? So, we really need to make sure we're addressing this at all levels. And yeah, just get in touch and make that network. I think Facebook groups, there's a few Facebook groups out there. I don't know if you're part of any of those. Good and bad sometimes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Really, yeah, it's really good to hear your experience, Sinead, and thank you, Leah and Ellora, for signposting and offering support is what we need. Bet, I wanted to go to you. You're next. Beth,
Can't hear you, Bet. Oh,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's actually Beth. Sorry, I've got a bit of a fake name on my Zoom profile. I found out about this session really late in the day, so I don't know I don't know much about your organisations yet. And I joined a little bit late as well, so I'm sorry if I missed what I'm going to be asking about. But so I retrained as a bench joiner, and I work as a joiner and like cabinet maker now. And I did that professionally retrained about 5 years ago. In my previous career, I helped to set up and run a further education department, but in arts education. So I'm really passionate about education, working with young people, as well as like craft skills, specifically joinery and woodwork. And yeah, I'm kind of want to just quickly tap into the hive mind, because I've been sort of ruminating on a project idea, and I'm kind of just putting out feelers and trying to talk to people about it and meet people. But something that it's been talked about quite a lot from a few different people and in the slides as well, but it's that kind of gap between kind of women or non-binary people going into training and then the progression into the careers and retention. And I'm kind of interested in, basically I've recently moved, but I'm interested in speaking to a local further education college and kind of developing a mentoring scheme for like women and non-binary who are in the construction trade area. And yeah, I could rant on about it for ages of different scales, but I'm just wondering if you guys know of anyone that's doing that already, know of any organizations that are kind of matching up like professionals with young people in training. And I'm interested as well in not only in kind of using the further education arena as a way to kind of find those people and make those connections, but actually continue those within their career paths to encourage retention. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good idea, and I'm not aware of anyone doing specifically mentoring within the trades. Not that I've come across. Yeah, I mean we've got one lady who trained as a carpenter, and now we're training her as an electrician. And every single day at college she sits and eats lunch on her own, and she's like one of the most friendly, gregarious people I know. So there's all these women in colleges who are kind of the only lady in their class. So I think that would be a good way to get in touch with people. But yeah, like I said to Sinead, I would also speak to the women in trades guys at Stopcocks, see if they're thinking of doing anything like that. But yeah, I would have thought Ellora's platform would be a good way to kind of get something going as well. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've done with our trainees actually, is given them mentors who are already established in the industry.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, one thing, her retrofit space focuses on a problem-solving space rather than specifically by sector, but obviously it's focused on her retrofit space because there was an incubator opportunity for a collective of professional women to solve a problem together. So what's quite interesting is, being a specific subject matter, that it requires people, whether they're architects, surveyors, heat engineers, to solve problems together in a more networked space. That's one of the inherent benefits. What we did find with emerging professionals is we have currently civil engineers, architects, and a student in environmental studies, for example, in the emerging professionals. But I like what you're doing, Bet. I can see that as being something regional for young professional students, who, specifically women non-binary, who looking for support entering that at that stage in their career. Because even though the colleges are supposed to support those people coming in, we do know from experience, Leah and I know, that it's still very isolating, it's still very nerve-wracking. I'm a mentor to a female civil engineer, and she's studying at the moment, and she's just done work experience. And I chatted to her over the course of the summer throughout her work experience to make sure she was okay, to check in on her. She was really nervous about starting, she found there were more women she could quickly find, just giving her the confidence to go in there and kind of own that work experience that she got. And she's now in the final year. So I take it upon myself. There are a couple of mentorship schemes. I can definitely connect with you afterwards, because I'm a member of one of them and I've completely forgot, because that's how I'm a mentor in the first place. But we do need more, definitely at that stage in career. So do drop me an email, Ellora@herownSpace.com, Bet. Love to chat to you about what's out there, definitely.
Fantastic. We're running out of time, I'm afraid. We could go on for a long time with this one. Rosa, we'll go to you. You've got the last question. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for all your inputs and your experience. They are very good, and they always bring like new ideas on how to develop in life. Well, my name is Rosa. I'm geologist, and I've been living in this country over 15 years. I didn't speak very good English when I moved here, so I started from the very bottom on construction as a lab technician, and then I developed as a geologist engineer, site engineer, a senior environmental consultant. And this year has been challenging for me because basically the company I was working for, they made me redundant, and then I could not find a permanent role. Yeah, and I thought about how was going to be the next chapter in my career. So I registered as a self-employed, and I setting up my own limited company now as a consultancy for environmental services. And I think my question here now is like Leah, basically Ellora, like you've been sharing your experience. What are your advice for a young professional like is setting up and trying to compete and collaborate with just in a male industry, like it's very, very tough and difficult. And I found it like very challenging at the moment to try to find clients. What could you recommend me, or what kind of information you can provide me, like to keep me pushing forward?
So obviously setting up a business on your own, Rosa, is really difficult in itself, kind of irrelevant of the industry. I have found a fantastic support in a website called digitalboost.co.uk, which is a government-run organization for small businesses and self-employed people starting up. It's completely free. There's free training. There's free resources. Do have a look. And there's fantastic mentors that you can tap into for free from any industry, specifically on every subject. I think the biggest challenge, Rosa, probably for you is also managing the business and driving customers. Network as much as you can. Obviously LinkedIn, we know, is a really, really important tool, but just be focused on building what your offer is and building your business and making sure that doesn't take over all your time. So you'll find Digital Boost really, really handy space for small female founded businesses. And then there are some great networks out there like Female Founders, for women running small businesses as well. Across any sector, you'll probably find the same challenges. And then in terms of attracting customers, just network as much as you can and try and find the right communities as much as you can.
Okay. Yes, I am a member of Women in Property, and I think I go weekly to the events. So if another people here involved in this conversation want to join, yes, I am a member, and actually I started doing it over a year ago, and I found it quite useful. Thank you for providing like digital boost, because I didn't know about them. I've been in contact with Core Ventures, Future Right. Actually, was a person from Future Right who mentioned about this chat, this call, this webinar, and for that reason I signed in. So I think if the other people who's been involved, like Beth, or I don't remember the other lady, but if you want to find more information about potentially like training or something like that, Cool Venture during the past few months, it's been really, really helpful, and they provide me a lot of information. Yeah, if that can help somebody else.
Thank you so much. Oh, I feel bad because I want to include Lizzie because she has got one more question. Go on then. I understand if people need to leave, we'll just do one more and then we'll finish. Lizzie, shoot.
Hi, hello. I'm an architect based in Bristol, and I sort of stumbled across this last week when I got the email through, and I thought, brilliant, this is so exciting to kind of hear about what you are both doing. And I suppose I just came on this hoping to reach out to other, I suppose, people in the industry, because I feel I run my own company, and mostly just do kind of residential work and have a lot of private clients that have all the best intentions to do retrofit. But it's such a minefield out there, and finding good, good quality people who are local to, well, Bristol, where I practice, is really tricky. So I suppose it's just like to open it up and say, I would be really keen to talk to more people from various different trades, but also who might be able to give technical advice, because everything from insulating through to actually, putting in renewable technology, it's such a minefield of what the best thing to do is for existing buildings, of which we've got many and many listed ones in Bristol. So really, yeah, I feel, we can sit here and sort of say there's so many issues for us as women, but actually it's only by just getting all together and having a really open conversation. I think that's the thing. It's intimidating talking to a group of older men about what the best thing to do is. And I really feel, there's an opportunity for such camaraderie, and we can do amazing things. So yeah, I feel I'll drop my email maybe if I'm allowed in the chat, and anyone who wants to have more of a conversation, I'd be really up for having, another Zoom or something, and just figuring out if there's a way that we can create more of a network to work on projects together, in a real sort of active way. So not so much a question, but just sort of an invitation. I think there's some really good links and things that people have suggested as well that I'm going to follow up on. But yeah.
So thanks, Lizzie, for that. You're very much one of many people I speak to in the architectural industry, really focus on sustainability and how to attract the right homeowners, how to expand your knowledge, the right tools. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards as well and set that chat up. Our platform is, and I don't mean to push, but is exactly that space to solve that problem. We also have an extensive women homeowners network that's been growing over the last 3 years, with currently around 3,500 members. We have a lot of things in the pipeline also about the benefit that women homeowners undertaking retrofit projects, the type of workforce that they want access to is a really big part of the conversation. There's loads of things in the pipeline in terms of us building up a professional directory and showcase of certain key women professionals in retrofit. And also one of the most important things is the training and the knowledge is really, really key to ensure you're giving the right support and the right advice. I don't know if you've looked, for example, at the AECB retrofit training in any way for architects. We have several architects in our platform who've gone through that and felt that that's really provided them with exactly the skill set they needed to understand natural building materials as well. And calculating carbon footprint, for example, on projects. One of our members, Natalie Black, is a fantastic architect, worked on the low carbon project in Muswell Hill, really aspiring case study. So happy to touch base with you and we can have a chat about all those things happening.
Thank you. That's a lovely positive end to the session. And I just want to give a shameless plug for the Green Register's own retrofit skills training course, which we've just launched. And it's a hybrid course that is an introductory course for people wanting to go into retrofit. So it's part of it's online and kind of covers quite similar to what you just mentioned about the ACBs. But there is a strong practical element, which I hope speaks to Suzanne's experience of learning in Germany as well. So Lizzie, this is actually rolling out in the West of England Combined Authority region right now. So if you find anyone who would like to come on that course, then do send them my way. I'd be more than happy to talk to them. But I just want to end by saying thank you all for your contributions. It's been a super collaborative session, lots of really interesting signposting, interesting to hear your experiences as well. And there's a lot to unpick here. I kind of wish that we could go on for another 2 hours, honestly. But thank you so much to Ellora, and to Leah for speaking, and for everyone for joining us tonight and participating
Thanks, Charlotte.
in such an important session. Have a
Thank you
great
very
evening,
much.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.